In December 1872, a vessel was spotted drifting through the Atlantic Ocean. At first glance, nothing seemed unusual. Its sails were still standing. The ship appeared completely seaworthy. But when rescuers stepped aboard, they discovered a mystery that remains unsolved even today. The ship was called Mary Celeste. In November 1872, a ship called the Mary Celeste set sail from New York. On board were Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife Sarah, their young daughter Sophia, and 7 crewmen. The ship was carrying a cargo of industrial alcohol and was heading to Geneva, which is in Italy. At first, everything seemed normal. The weather was good, the ship was in excellent condition, there was no sign that anything was about to go wrong. As the days passed, life on board followed a familiar routine. The crew cleaned the deck, sails were adjusted whenever the wind changed, meals were prepared in the galley, navigation charts were checked and updated. Captain Briggs kept a close eye on the ship's progress. Sarah spent her days caring for young Sophia. For everyone on board, it was just another voyage across the Atlantic. Nothing seemed unusual. Nothing seemed out of place. But somewhere out there, far from land, something happened. And whatever it was, nobody lived to tell the story. Several weeks later, another ship called the Dia Gracia spotted the Mary Celeste in the distance. At first, the crew thought it was just another vessel crossing the Atlantic. But as they watched, they noticed something strange. The ship's movement seemed unusual. Nobody could be seen on the deck. No one responded to signals. No crew members appeared. The captain of the Dia Gracia became concerned. He ordered a small team to board the vessel and find out what was happening. As the men climbed aboard, they expected to find a damaged ship or a sick crew. Instead, they found silence. The deck was empty. The cabins were empty. The captain's family was gone. The crew was gone. Every person on board had disappeared. The more the boarding team looked around the ship, the stranger things became. The Mary Celeste was not sinking. In fact, the ship was still capable of sailing. The cargo was still on board. Thousands of liters of industrial alcohol remained untouched. Food supplies were still available. Water was still available. Personal belongings had been left behind. If the crew had decided to leave the ship, they had done so in a hurry. But why? There were no signs of violence, no signs of a fight, no signs of piracy, nothing appeared to have been stolen. The captain's cabin was largely undisturbed. Navigation equipment was missing, but most of the ship remained exactly where it should have been. The investors noticed another important clue. The ship's lifeboat was gone. It was the only major thing apparently missing from Mary Celeste. Somehow, the captain, his family, and the crew had left the ship. But the real question was, why? Over the years, many explanations have been proposed. Some were reasonable, others were far from dramatic. But even after more than a century, no theory has been able to explain every detail of the mystery. So, let's analyze and understand the theories as to what happened, what might have gone wrong. Theory 1. Pirates. One of the earliest theories was piracy. After all, ships crossing the Atlantic were sometimes attacked. Perhaps the pirates had boarded the Mary Celeste and taken everything away. At first, the idea sounded possible, but there was a problem. Pirates usually steal valuables, and the cargo remained untouched. Personal belongings were still on board. Nothing suggested that thieves had taken control of the ship. Because of this, most historians believe piracy was unlikely. Another theory was mutiny. Perhaps the crew had turned against Captain Briggs. Maybe a disagreement had grown into something much worse. Some people believed that the crew could have taken the control of the ship and abandoned the captain and his family. But once again, the evidence didn't support the idea. The crew had good reputations. There were no signs of a struggle, no bloodstains, no damage suggesting a fight had taken place. If a mutiny had happened, it had left almost no trace behind. and that made the theory difficult to believe. Others pointed to the weather. The Atlantic Ocean can be unpredictable, pretty much unpredictable. Strong winds and rough seas are common, especially during winters. Perhaps a powerful storm had frightened the crew into abandoning the ship. But there was a problem with this theory too. The Mary Celeste was still afloat. Its sails were still standing. The ship had suffered only minor damage. It did not look like a vessel that had barely survived a disaster. Once again, investigators were left with more questions than answers. Today, many historians believe the answer may lie in the ship's cargo. Hidden below the deck were more than 1,700 barrels of industrial alcohol. If some of those barrels had leaked, dangerous fumes could have built up inside the ship. Captain Briggs may have feared an explosion. To protect everyone on board, he could have ordered the crew into the lifeboat while the situation was assessed. It might have seemed like a temporary decision, just a precaution, just a few minutes away from the ship. But out in the Atlantic Ocean, even a small mistake can become a deadly one. Strong winds or rough seas could have separated the lifeboat from the Mary Celeste. If that happened, the people on board the lifeboat would have been helpless. The ship would continue drifting, and the crew would disappear into the ocean forever. We may never know if that is what really happened. No witness survived, no final message was ever found, no bodies were ever recovered. The Mary Celeste was found, its cargo was found, its belongings were found, but its people never were. More than 150 years later, the mystery remains unsolved. And somewhere in the pages of maritime history, the Mary Celeste continues to drift through one of the greatest mysteries the world has ever known. Perhaps the answer was lost to the Atlantic forever.